everyone. Hope you're enjoying day one of RSA. I'm Bill Brenner, and I am talking to you again from Broadcast Alley here at Moscone West. And I am joined by Akira Brand, and we had a conversation last night over dinner, and I have a feeling that some dad jokes are going to flow out of this. But, so you are a co-host of Application Security Weekly, which is how I came to know you in the first place. But you're also an AppSec engineer and program creator, and your brand is Akira Brand Consulting.
Yes.
So,
yes, it is.
welcome.
Thank you for having me. This is joy to be here at RSA. It's my first time, not only my first time speaking, but my first time attending, and I'm just really glad to be here with you guys today.
And we're glad to have you. So, we're going to talk about Toil, what it's good for, how it applies when it comes to AppSec. And so I'm just going to start and ask, what is Toil?
What is Toil? What a great question. So,
I mean, I know what Toil is, but for the audience.
Right, for the audience, what is Toil? Toil is colloquially defined as work that is functionally miserable to do, right? It's hard work, especially work that makes you feel physically tired at the end of it. But for the talk I'm giving tomorrow with my co-presenter Jennifer Chaplesky, we are talking about Toil as how the Google SRE team defined it in 2016 in their book, in their publication Eliminating Toil with SRE Teams. So Toil in this context is a little different. Toil is work that is functionally manual, repetitive, automatable, interrupt-driven, and at the end of the day, it's any work that you do on a production system or service that doesn't
toiling away.
Toiling away. Any work that you do on a system or service that doesn't make it better, once you're done working on it, that can be classified as toil.
Sometimes it is exactly what it sounds like.
Yeah, exactly so. It's not a mystery.
So, talk about, this is the why should I care question.
Totally.
So, there's a human quality of life cost. There are severe business consequences.
Yes.
If not handled with care.
Yes.
And so, just kind of talk through.
Yeah. So,
the
why should
you
you care about Toil, and why should you spend time, money, and resources addressing it? There's two main big reasons. The first reason is that there is a severe cost to the human element, right? No one likes doing toil. And unfortunately, in a lot of organizations, the toil can pile and pile and pile. So if you're spending the majority of your time doing toily work, your job function is going to functionally just be miserable at the end of the day, right? Also, something we discovered in our research for this talk is that when you have humans that are functionally focusing only on toil, the people that affects most is your high performers. So maybe the lower and mid performers aren't going to be as affected, but the high performers really want to be doing work that is important to them. They want to be doing that engineering work. They want to be doing that real research. They don't want to be doing stuff that they really shouldn't be doing. And you're going to have turnover. So you're going to actually lose a lot of your best talent if the work that they're doing is toily, as it were. Second off, there's a severe business consequence to having toil. In our research, we found that we could save our prospective companies thousands upon thousands of dollars by automating processes that should be automated that maybe you didn't see as automatable, or by reducing the amount of noise that happens around toily endeavors. So, for example, a business example I give in my talk tomorrow, I saved my company upwards of $40,000 by addressing one single toil, which come to the talk tomorrow and you'll learn all about that. But also my colleague saved up her company upwards of $500,000 functionally addressing toily work. So there is a severe business consequence, and toil is not something that only applies in times of peace and prosperity. It also is really important, especially now with the conflict going on in the world and what's going on with our economy and whatnot. Companies are looking to save money, and a great place for them to start, aside from just cutting staff or doing all the regular things that maybe aren't as necessarily productive, is looking at where are they toiling and where are they just throwing dollars away. So, yeah.
Now, for the past few minutes, we've been talking about the research.
About what?
About research.
Yes.
But I neglected to ask about what the methodology of the research.
Sure.
So talk through that.
I have this, every time I give a talk, I try to focus on an area of my own life, my own professional life, that is causing me a lot of pain, and functionally fixing that pain and then talking about it. So the way that I researched this was I just looked at where in my job was I miserable, right? In my last full-time job, I was the only AppSec engineer. It was my first time being the first and only AppSec engineer on a team. And I really had to optimize my own workflows and processes. Otherwise, I was gonna burn out. It was gonna be miserable. So the way that I researched it is I tried to create a process for addressing the toil once I identified it. And at the talk tomorrow, we're gonna talk a lot more about the process in depth. But functionally, there's 4 stages. First one is to identify. Second is to measure. Third is to decide what to do about it. And then the fourth, of course, is to implement and iterate over that.
There's kind of an OODA loop quality to it.
I'm not sure what you mean by OODA loop.
It's, to the audience, Google it. It's
Just Google it.
It's military. It's about situational awareness.
Ah.
And, knowing your situation, analyzing it, taking the right action.
And what I'll say, Bill, is that toil is insidious, right? Like, it hides in plain sight. And if your team is kind of operating at max capacity, they don't see toil as toil. They just see it as part of their jobs that they probably have a really hard time doing. And that's why it's so important to take time to actually analyze, to identify it, to decide if it's expensive enough to do anything about. And tomorrow, again, we're going to talk a little bit more about how to apply some methodologies around deciding what to do. So, yeah.
Now, before I forget.
Yes.
When and where for your talk?
Oh, tomorrow at 2:35 at Moscone West.
Upstairs?
Room 3014.
3014.
Yes.
Wow. Did you memorize that?
I did. I'm very good.
Yeah, what's interesting to me about this topic is we talk about toil as people do it because they're like, well, it's my job.
Mm-hmm.
But in the process of toiling, it can become a mental health problem.
Yes.
For a security practitioner.
Yes.
Especially if you're dealing with applications.
Yes.
And so I'm just wondering how much thought on that.
I have lots of thoughts on that. Actually, the main story that I won't spoil today, that I'm telling at my talk tomorrow, has to do with like improving my own mental health through identifying toil. Functionally, I'll refer to a bit of actual research that was not us. There was an article published in the Journal of Clinical Psychology last year talking about burnout. And the TLDR of that article is that the root cause of burnout at work is that people want to feel like what they're working on is important, not only to the organization, but also to them. Toil is not important. There's nothing you can do to make it important to yourself. It's just not a good time. Now, that's not to say that all toil is something that people can't stand doing. Of course, we can stand it. We have to do it. But it doesn't improve the quality of the work. It doesn't improve the quality of life. And that can really take a big toll on especially people in application security like myself, where you are outnumbered like 300 to 1 sometimes by software developers. You have so much work. You are constantly on the defensive of attacks and problems. And if you're spending your work doing things that really isn't meaningful or isn't moving that mission forward, you're going to be spinning your wheels and you're going to be pretty miserable at the end of the day. So,
well, I look forward to seeing the talk.
Yeah.
And good to be with you in this forum.
Yes.
So we'll be back. And just a reminder to the audience that to follow our ongoing coverage here at RSA, you can visit securityweekly.com/RSAC. And we'll be back.